Okay, welcome everybody. Can you believe it's September 1st already? Feels like August went so fast. So I'm glad you guys all joined us today. And I think you probably had the last week or so off, right? So hopefully you had fun during that time and still stayed active. I have to tell you about my new toy. I got the Apple Watch. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed because instead of like just counting your steps, it has these rings and you have to close your exercise ring and your calories burned ring and your standing at least once every hour ring. And for the last several nights, I've been out in the backyard just doing circles, trying to get my rings to close. So sometimes I like to have a little motivation, so I like that. But anyway, today we're talking about diversity. Diversity is in all the news and it's the big thing right now, but we're talking about diversity of food. Now I'm combining this, as I always do, it comes down to eating more plants. And so there is, this is covertly going to be about the gut microbiome. So it gets a bit sciencey today, so you can tune me out if you don't like the sciencey part. The bottom line will be eat more plants, and that's going to help your gut. But there's a guy named Dr. Will Bushowitz, and he wrote a book called Fiber Fueled. And so he's been on all the little podcasts I listen to. I listen to quite a few vegan podcasts. And he's been on all of those, so that's why I'm a little obsessed about it. And I thought he had some really good points that I've actually really learned a lot from it. So the thing is, how many plant foods do we eat? And generally, the typical American eats very few. So I put down what I thought might be a typical day for me to count how many plant foods I get. So at breakfast, I have my oatmeal, and I might put berries on it, but I also might do a banana, something else. I might throw a few nuts in it. I always throw some flax seeds or chia seeds or hemp seeds or all of them. I always throw some cinnamon in. So notice in plant foods, I'm including herbs and spices too. And then at lunch, I generally have a big salad with multiple greens. And you guys have heard about my salad before. I throw beans on them of some sort. And then I will throw any fruits and or veggies I have in the fridge or that will fill it up. And I usually throw pumpkin seeds on there. And then for dinner, I might have, say, a grilled tofu with I just threw in here a grilled veggie salad because that's one of the recipes I provided. I'm not making it today, but I wanted to talk to you about it a little bit. It's got multiple veggies in it, plus some quinoa. And then my dessert of choice lately has been nice cream. If you don't know what that is, it's taking frozen bananas and just blending it up in your food processor. I think it really, if you use a blender, it would have to be a high-speed blender. I find that mine comes out better in my food processor. And then to make it cherry Garcia, which is one of my favorites, I also throw some frozen cherries in there. But you could eat it just straight, the blended up frozen bananas with a little almond milk, not unlike what Tim did with a few months ago with the pineapple. To make it real cherry Garcia, you could throw in some chocolate chips too, but I never seem to have those. But anyway, that might be a typical day for me. So that's about 30 different plant foods, depending on if I just had one kind of lettuce, it would be less. Or if I had just one kind of veggie in my salad, that would be less. But if we're getting multiple things, that's about 30. And that's actually, I was kind of happy that that's what it was, because that's what they're saying. Get 30 or 40 different plant foods over the course of the week, not necessarily in a day. But if we're trying to not get bored with following a plant-based diet, then thinking about our diversity of our plants is super helpful. So we always talk about plants and why they're so great. And of course, you already know. Plants are high in fiber, so we love that. They're low in calories. They're high in those antioxidants, those little plant chemicals that go around and help heal us up and keep us from rusting on the inside. They're nutrient dense, meaning they really have more nutrients than calories, as opposed to, say, a French fry, which would be more calorie dense, less nutrients, more calories. They're full of those phytochemicals or plant chemicals or plant nutrients that help protect the plant. So because they help protect the plant, they also help us protect us. They help protect our cells, they help protect our DNA from damage, they help restore our DNA. They help fight cancer, they help fight heart disease. So we love to get plants. And then the fiber part is what I want to focus on mostly today, because the fiber in plants is the food for the bacteria in our gut. So it increases the diversity of the bacteria in our gut. And that's what we want to do, is have lots of diversity of bacteria in our gut. So that's what we're going to talk about. Again, I'm sorry if it gets a little too sciencey. It was hard not to when we talk about the gut microbiome. So we got a gut. It weighs about gut is your really entire intestinal tract. So we're talking more about the colon and the small intestine. It weighs about 4 to 6 pounds. So our gut weighs quite a bit. And I'm using the abbreviation, the GMB, is your gut microbiome. So it has these organisms in it that are bacteria, and the gut microbiome has about 40 trillion, that's with a T, little bacteria. Human cells, we don't have like 30 trillion. So there's lots more in our gut than anywhere. And you know, there's a link from our gut to our brain called the vagus nerve. And that is how like our brain and our gut are kind of linked together. So in normal, healthy adult humans have about 1,000 species of bacteria in their gut microbiome. But a lot of GI problems that people are experiencing these days is because of lack of diversity in their gut. So the diversity varies. It depends on your heredity, on your environment. We'll talk a little bit about that. Your birth method, like if you were vaginal birth or C-section, infant feeding, if you were breastfed or formula fed, antibiotic use, because antibiotics are meant to kill a bad bacteria or a bad bug, and they tend to kill everything around it. And then diet is the thing that we're going to focus on today. And the gut microbiome can change. So that's what we want to do, is keep adding more plants to change our gut microbiome. So here is just a little picture. I got to look up close because I can't see it. So we got our gut here. So when food leaves the stomach, it enters the small intestine, which consists of 3 parts: the duodenum, the jejunum.
Yeah, but if you think you're showing your slides, you're not.
Oh, crap. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. You recorded that too. Sorry, I said crap. Let's see. You know, that's a really good point. I did think I was. And because you need to see this picture. Well, dang it. I'm sorry, you guys. The other slides haven't been all that exciting. They've just been words. So, but now we want, can you see anything now?
Yes, but you need to get your slide going.
How's this?
That's it, yes.
Yay! Sorry, the other ones were just words, so whatever. All right, here we go. So this is our gut microbiome, our gut. And the microbiome I'm just calling GMB, so you didn't see those letters on my last slides. So when we eat food, it goes through the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum. Those are our small intestine, and then it ultimately ends up in the colon. So on the left side, you see these are the type of nutrients and things that are absorbed and what happens in those areas of the intestine. On the right-hand side, it gives us an example of what bacteria or chemicals that might be in those areas. So you can see the colon ends up having a lot more than the others, but the others do too. So that's just FYI. So in the way our gut microbiome affects our bodies is that it breaks down fiber and creates these things called short chain fatty acids. Butyrate is the name of one of them. And oddly, I don't think I have that name in any of my slides, but that's a common one, butyrate. So this helps the colon lining. So along the edges of our colon, it's lined so that things can't get out. And so these short chain fatty acids help keep things in, because there are a bunch of little cells that hold together with these things called tight junctions. And so if we don't have great diversity in our microbiome, and we don't have a lot of these short chain fatty acids, those tight junctions get a little leaky. And so then those leak toxins into our body. So the short chain fatty acids, we love those. That's what our bacteria break down. And they help reduce the risk of colon cancer and inflammation. They protect against pathogens or bad bugs. So good microbes are kind of this check and balance against the bad ones. So what happens is sometimes you'll hear people have SIBO is where they have bacterial overgrowth. So the bad microbiomes or microbes kind of overran the good guys. Now the microbes in our gut also help with our immune system, and they start to recognize who's good, who's bad. And what gets a little tricky is that, you know, one thing that we always think of, nobody wants to get E. coli, like it's the worst thing ever. None of us want to get it. But in moderation, we all have it in our gut. It's when it starts to overrun everything that it becomes a problem. So then other jobs is it gets rid of these things called xenobiotics, which are really things that aren't naturally found in our body. So, and also things like from our environment, pollutants. So these good bacteria help to protect us from these bad things that might get in our body, pesticides, herbicides. It helps preserve our gut lining, like I told you. It helps keep those junctions tight so we don't get leaky gut. And the bacteria play a role in our vitamin and mineral production too, in making vitamins B and K and helping us to absorb calcium and iron. So we really count on those microbes in our gut. So you probably all heard about probiotics and prebiotics. I know we've talked about it before. So probiotics are foods that actually contain live bacteria, because you think, well, I want to have good bacteria in there, so I'm going to eat some good bacteria. So, you know, sometimes people eat yogurt with the live culture, so that has the live bacteria in it. But also fermented foods, sauerkraut, miso, soy sauce, tempeh, which is a great vegan meat substitute. Those all have probiotics. They have the actual bacteria in it. And then yogurt, kefir, kombucha, that's kind of the hot item, you know, at farmers markets. It's a fermented tea. And yogurt, you might say, well, I thought I'm supposed to be going more dairy-free. And true, dairy has other things that we might want to avoid it for, but we can't take away from the fact that the lactose that's in our dairy actually does act as a probiotic. I don't know if that outweighs the cons on dairy, but it's there. And then there's prebiotics. Those are the food that feed the gut. That's our fiber-rich foods. So if we have good high fiber foods and a wide diversity of the foods that we eat, that's going to help build up more gut bacteria and a more diverse gut bacteria. So I don't know if you heard of this word, dysbiosis. This is an imbalance of the bacteria, the good versus the bad. And so people who have GI problems often are suffering from dysbiosis. People who have celiac disease are generally suffering from dysbiosis. People who have irritable bowel, dysbiosis. It can be caused because of lack of dietary fiber. So the fiber is the food for that gut. Meat and cheese in our typical American diet is not. It could be antibiotic use. Like I said, when you take antibiotics, it kills all the bacteria, the good and the bad. It's not very discerning. This dysbiosis can contribute to inflammation, which then continues to cause insulin resistance, which then goes on to cause type 2 diabetes. Now, another reason why we might have dysbiosis is over-sanitizing. And sadly, I'm a little worried what's going to happen during this COVID thing, because I know I am much more sanitary and using all the hand stuff all the time, as we're all supposed to. But that kills everything. And the bugs that survive that sanitation, they just grow to be stronger, whether they're good or bad. So they've done some studies and show that kids who live in an environment with dirt or animals, you know, like out on the farm or live outside a lot, they have much more diversity in their microbiome. And because of that, it seems they have less allergies, less autoimmune diseases like type 1 diabetes, less asthma. And then having a pet in your home is associated with a healthier gut microbiome too, for those of you who have pets. I'm very thankful for that, because you can tell our house is just not all that clean with these dogs. Okay, so let's think about this diet. So a high fiber diet will contribute in your gut, will make all the microbes have funky names. So Prevotella is one you might hear a lot. Prevotella are kind of the good guys. So a high fiber diet contributes to more of the good bacteria, these Prevotella, and more diversity, especially if we're eating a wide variety of plant foods. If you have a diet high in protein and fat, we have more of these bacteroides. Those are not so great. Those are associated with extra weight and with problems like that are associated with the metabolic syndrome, which might be high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. People with a higher protein and fat diet don't have very much diversity in their gut microbiomes. And because they don't have the diversity and not as much fiber, they're not making those short chain fatty acids as much because they're not eating the fiber, which those bacteria love. And so then they might end up having more of the leaky gut and more of the GI problems. So animal foods promote the growth of the bad bacteria and create these toxins. So then imagine now our little tight junctions aren't so tight anymore. They're getting leaky, and those toxins now leak out into our body and cause problems, inflammation, chronic disease. So we want to focus more on the high fiber. It's just like one more reason to eat plants and high fiber. So to make sure you got a good, healthy gut microbiome, you need a good diet. And here, a good diet is synonymous with a diverse diet. So it's not eating the same things every day. It's high in fiber and it's plant-based foods because those animal foods are not helping your gut microbiome at all. So, and then it's incorporating fermented foods. Sadly, I don't love a lot of the fermented foods, but I do like tempeh, and so I've been trying to eat a little bit more of that. This, when Linda pulls up the slides, you'll be able to see this a little bit better. But it just shows how if we're eating a good, healthy diet, we're going to get plenty of fiber. Now, typically, the typical American, it depends on who you ask, get like 14 to 16 grams of fiber a day. What we're supposed to be getting is at least 20 to 38, depending on your age and your gender. So what we'd like to suggest here is getting closer to like 50. So here, and it's not that hard if we're eating plant foods. If you have 2 to 3 servings of your whole grains every day, if you have a serving or 2 of beans or legumes or split peas every day, if you've got a ton of your vegetables in there, so they recommend here, even in their counting, they did 3 to 5, 2 to 4 servings of fruit, and a serving of nuts every day, depending on how your quantities of these things and which ones you chose, 33 to 57 grams of fiber a day. Now that makes a good microbiome. And I'm sorry, the look of this is not great, but you'll be able to see it better if you just look on the slide. So this is a little handout from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM. They've got some great information on the gut bacteria on their website. And this just shows some of the foods and what they can do for our gut. I love the beans one. Look, the beans help to make more of the short chain fatty acids. The Jerusalem artichokes, in case you're saying, what the heck is that? I've got to tell you, I got those. I met somebody who grows Jerusalem artichokes in Montana, sent me some. I used them last year. I planted them. They grew beautifully, and then the deer chewed them down to little nubs. So this year, they totally took over my garden. I did not plant them. They have just sprung up, and I'm hoping I'm going to get some good Jerusalem artichokes this time. The artichokes are actually in the dirt. They grow these like 5-6 foot plants, but then when you yank it up, you get the Jerusalem artichokes from the bottom, and you just cook them up like you might any other tuber, like a potato or anything like that. So really, they're nothing like an artichoke. I don't know why they named it that. But you can see just in our variety of foods, and there's your tempeh right there down in the bottom right. So tempeh is a fermented soybean, and because of the fermentation, it acts as a probiotic. So I think we made some things with tempeh before. All right. So if you want to build good bacteria in your gut, you got to build your meals around plants. I love to aim for at least 50 grams of fiber a day. And no, this is not one more thing you have to count. If you're getting plenty of fruits and vegetables, and whole grains and beans, you're going to be okay. So you don't have to count it unless you like to, like I do. So then you can eat your plant prebiotics. Remember, your prebiotics are your high fiber foods that love to feed your good bacteria. So these are just to name a few here. And then you could add some fermented foods, whichever you like. I really wish I loved sauerkraut, but I don't. But you know, a lot of us are eating some sourdough these days, so sourdough will do it too. But really, it's the things you add and the things you avoid. So we're trying to strive for a plant-based diet, a whole food plant-based diet. So we're not going to have red meat, dairy, fried foods anyway. And be careful about saturated fats, because saturated fats is not good for your gut bacteria and can promote the leaky gut too. These are just a few. I'm just going to breeze through these. You can look at them later if you're more interested in detail, but again, I'm trying not to be too sciencey. But the gut microbiome is associated with extra weight too. So if we were to call our gut microbiome an obese gut microbiome, we get more energy from our diet. So we use our calories better. We can get more calories out of our food. And what they've shown is the bacteria in lean people have more of those bacteroides, and the obese have more of the firmicutes. I told you there's all these weird names. So they tend to get more calories from their foods and contribute to more cravings. So another good reason to try to get a good microbiome. So this is kind of the gross, but always fun to talk about topic, our fecal transplant. So they took these obese mice and they were germ-free. And so, when they put in there they actually do a fecal implant. They don't, you don't have to eat it. They do this for humans too. It's a suppository, I guess. And they had an increase in total body fat. Then the normal weight mice, when they were germ-free, they remained a normal weight. So what they're trying to do is put skinny mice bacteria into an obese mice and see if they'll achieve a healthy weight. And that's what they're doing with humans too. And then they also showed that this yo-yo dieting or yo-yo obesity, where sometimes you gain weight, sometimes you lose it, that can actually affect your gut microbiome. And then, any of you who have lost weight, sometimes it's just hard to keep it off. And so that gut microbiome, the obese microbiome, sticks around for about 6 months. And so it has this memory that makes it difficult to keep your weight off. So again, they did fecal implants from an obese mouse to a normal weight and found that it erased the bad memory. So that doesn't mean if you lose weight, you got to have a fecal transplant, but it's just interesting. Now, they're also looking at the gut microbiome as it is associated with Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's, autism. Where the fecal transplant is really being used these days is for people who have C. diff. So C. diff is just a really bad bug that is really resistant to almost all the antibiotics. And so when they do a transplant of a good healthy microbiome, so a good healthy fecal matter, then the C. diff goes away like in just 2 or 3 days. It's also been used for ulcerative colitis. NAFLD is fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and IBS is irritable bowel. And then dysbiosis, or when you have that imbalance in your bacteria, is associated with chronic gastrointestinal diseases, like I said before, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, diabetes. So they're kind of looking at all this. And the interesting thing on diabetes, why I made it a special slide, is because the microbiome in people with diabetes, they found, makes more acetate. And acetate causes more insulin to be sent out, so insulin secretion. It increases the hormone that makes us hungry, called ghrelin. That plus extra food intake causes insulin resistance, which contributes to type 2. And a high-fat meal can lead to those toxins leaking through the intestines. So that's the leaky gut. When those toxins get out there into our body, they increase inflammation, they increase triglycerides, they increase insulin resistance. Okay, so what can you do to have more plant foods? Well, you might want to just count for fun on a normal day. See how many plant foods you get. Now, really, they're recommending 30 or more within a week, so you don't have to try to get those all in one day. But see where you're at and build from there. I know for some of us, it's just a lot easier to eat the same thing every day. But for our gut microbiome, it might be, even if we're doing the greatest, healthiest diet, it's not going to help our gut microbiome if we don't have a lot of diversity. Go to the farmer's market and find some new produce. Maybe we'll find some Jerusalem artichokes there. Only have plants on your plate, which is what we're striving for anyway. Fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans. And use herbs and spices liberally, because those are plant foods too. I listened to a really interesting discussion the other day about how Americans are the only culture where meat is the main part of our diet. And if you take a look at other cultures, it's often based on herbs and spices, like say Mexican food. You know, they're adding cumin and chili powder and I can't think of all the other things, but they've got kind of a flavor profile, and Moroccan has a flavor profile, and all Asian has a flavor profile that are based on herbs and spices, and then they're adding plants and some meat to it. Whereas us, I mean, what is our flavor profile? Salt and pepper, I guess. I don't know. We tend to have meat be the central part, and then we salt and pepper it, and then maybe the vegetables are an afterthought. So to get more diversity in our plants, we could also maybe add some veggies to our breakfast. We could just, instead of eating traditional breakfast foods, we could eat more savory breakfast foods. We could have a salad at lunch and dinner. All those veggies are going to push out our animal foods and fill up with plant foods. So I got two salads. I'll kind of just get through my couple slides more, and then I'm going to show you one of these. I'm only going to show you the quinoa salad. But these are my diverse salads. So I found both of these on a TV show I love called The Kitchen. The quinoa salad has quinoa. So if we are batch cooking, like we talked about a few months ago, where we're making extra things, you cook up some quinoa and make enough so you can make the salad. But then you can also have your leftover quinoa for breakfast. You can have it as a side dish with your dinner. But you got your quinoa already in the fridge. This one is a very green dish. It has green grapes, cucumber, mint, parsley. So we're utilizing our spices, scallions, and avocado if you want to. The grilled salad is a really fun one. So it's grilling some things that I don't normally grill. So it grilled some red cabbage. I'll show you that. I'll show you how I do that in a minute. Poblano peppers, corn, strawberries, green onions, cilantro, lime, garlic, avocado if you want it, 9 different plant foods. So when we're having a salad, we can throw all kinds of different things in there. And I don't want you to feel like you always have to have a salad, but that's just one good way to get multiple produce in. So the bottom line here is that your healthy gut microbiome can have positive effects on our health, on our immune system, and even our mood. Remember, our gut microbiome via the vagus nerve affects our brain too, so it can totally affect our mood. So if you feed good food, which AKA fiber, to your gut, it's going to take care of you. So you want to eat a wide variety of plants. And instead of thinking, if I'm going to eat this one superfood, like, I know I push kale too much, but I do love my kale. But I should get other things too, not just the kale. Eat a variety of things, not just one seemingly superfood. Choose less animal foods and fat. Only use antibiotics when you absolutely have to. Antibiotics have definitely been a problem for our gut microbiome. Get a pet if you don't have one, and get dirty. We don't want to try not to stay quite as clean and sanitized. Although I appreciate that now with COVID, we have to be very sanitary. Okay, so really we're going to eat healthy, we're going to live healthy, we're going to be healthy. That's our goal. So now I'm just going to show you, I'm going to stop sharing, I think, and I'm just going to show you my salads I've got. So the one I'm going to actually make, and I've gotten all my parts put together already. I'm going to tilt this a little so you can see my bowls. hopefully you can see them, is the quinoa salad. So what I did is you don't even have to dirty another bowl. You do your dressing right in the bowl, and then you throw everything on top of it. So this dressing originally called for a bunch of olive oil, of course, as they all do. And so I used my kind of a combination of my 3-2-1 recipe. 3 parts vinegar to 2 parts Dijon mustard to 1 part of a sweetener like honey or maple syrup. And you blend that all up. Now, this recipe called for lime and lime juice. So I kind of that as part of my liquid. And then I also added some red wine vinegar to it. So just your basic red wine vinegar. Now, Linda mentioned to me that I have put down Dijon before, and she's right, because it's higher in salt. And it is. In fact, I was just looking at my little Dijon mustard thing, and there's 120 milligrams of sodium in a teaspoon. Now, I guess I've just always let that slide because I think I'm not going to drink all this. It's going to go on my salad, and I'm not going to eat the whole salad. But one thing you could do, if we're really being tight on our salt, is you could use your dried ground mustard. So I tried that on this one. Now, I'm really honestly not quite sure if it turned out quite as good because there's lime juice and it's really tart. But I think it's going to be fine in this recipe. So I mixed everything. A couple little tips I wanted to show you. The recipe called for zest. And whenever you add zest, orange zest, lemon zest, lime zest, that always kicks up your dressing or your dishes a lot. And I use my little microplane. This is what I love. I just rub it on here, and then that just drops it in. So I feel like this is one of my favorite tools. Then my other tool I love, and I've showed it to you before, is my lemon or lime squeezer. So you cut your lemon in half or your lime, stick it in here and squeeze it out. So I use this, I swear, every day. So then I added my other ingredients in here, and then I just whisked it up a little. So I got some little chunks in there. That's my lime zest. And one thing to always remember, if it calls for zest before you cut your lime, because it's a lot easier. And even if you weren't going to use zest, before you utilize a lemon, oh shoot, good thing we got that recorded. Before ever you use a lemon or lime, zest it and save that zest for a different recipe. Okay, so now this could not be easier. I made some quinoa yesterday, so I'm just going to dump that in here. Now, the original recipe, it was just a white quinoa, but I always have the tricolor. I don't know, I just think it's prettier. So I'm just going to throw that in here. And then it called for grapes, green grapes. And I suppose we could make it more colorful and use different ones, but I halved my green grapes. Throw those in there. And then it called for cucumber. Now, when I was watching them make this on the TV show, they peeled the cucumber, or they used those English cucumbers, because then you don't have to peel those. But I don't feel like even my regular cucumbers I need to peel. I like the peel, so I didn't peel it. Plus it adds to the color. And then it called for some green onions or scallions, and this used the white and the green. They don't always do that, but this one used both. And now what I love about this is it called for, we're really using our plants. We've got mint and we've got parsley. And I just wanted to show you before I do that, in case you haven't seen me do it before, this is my little trick, is you take your herbs and you put them in a cup or whatever you have, and you just use your little kitchen shears and snip it. That way it doesn't get your cutting board all green and everything. So I love to do that. So then I'm just going to dump those in there. Parsley and mint. Now you can probably use any ones you want. And then you just stir it and eat it. Now it also called for salt and pepper to taste, of course. It called for an avocado, so you could also cut up an avocado. I know some people are really trying to not have that much added fat into their day, so I didn't do it here, but you could do it and it goes along with the green theme. So now this could be a whole meal. You could have a bunch of dark green leafies, spinach, kale, mixed greens, whatever you like, and put this on top of it, it would be a perfect thing to take to a potluck. People go, oh, look, that's pretty. And everybody loves grapes. It's a really nice combination of the sweet with the grape and the tart with the lime juice. So I love this recipe. Super yummy. Okay, so there it goes. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, that's that one. Yeah. Now the other one I said I'm not making, but I wanted to show you. So I think I'm going to tilt you up again. Okay. So this called for all these items grilled. Corn grilled, and what was new to me was the red cabbage. I never grilled red cabbage before. You know, red cabbage is like a huge ball, right? And you wedge it. This is too big a wedge. I'd have to wedge it a little bit more. But the trick I learned was, you know, there's a little root at one end. You want to keep that root attached to your wedge. Otherwise, when you flip it, it just goes into little shreds, which is okay because you're going to end up chopping it all anyway. But, you know, I don't use red cabbage enough. So I think this is a great addition. And then if you're wondering, well, how do you do that? Well, on my grill, it has a flat grill. If you watched when I did that outdoor barbecue that time, you see my flat grill. But I also, this is a little addition you could get for your grill. It's just a little pan. You can tell mine is well used. And you just set that on top of your grill, whether you're using charcoal or gas. Either one, doesn't matter. And then you can put your items on there. So with corn, I just put corn, I husk it and put it straight onto the grill and just roll it a few times. Now, another thing that I'd never grilled before that's interesting on this recipe is strawberries. So I have a little grill basket. So you cut the strawberries in half or quarters, and then just for a few minutes, you put them on the grill. They get soft, they get more juicy, but this keeps them all in the same place. So I do love my grilled basket. And then you combine all the ingredients. The original recipe called for a dressing that was sort of green goddess-like, but made with avocado. And I didn't know if that might be a little much for us. So I found a vegan one, and I'll admit I have not tried this one yet. It's a vegan green goddess that uses tahini, which is a sesame seed paste. So that's not a low-fat item either, but seeds are, helpful, and seeds are prebiotics, so we do love those. And so you could blend it up that way, in a blender or in a Vitamix or food processor, whichever you like. But it ends up being kind of green goddessy. So that's included in that recipe too. And I'm afraid I have not tried that recipe. I just did it at the last minute because I didn't know if you'd want to use whole avocado. But I think any of those might be good. And all of those are going to help to increase your diversity in plants. So look how many plant foods we get just in those two salads. So another thing I think is it helps just to make us think we can be a little more, aggressive in our choices and try some different things. So I really challenge you this week to go to the store or go to the farmer's market and maybe try a different vegetable or a different fruit and maybe try something different with it. Like, I had never heard about grilling strawberries, but they're really good. It just makes them even sweeter. So maybe try one new thing this week. How about that? That's my challenge to you. That's it. Okay, that's all I got. Questions? Things? I see I have somebody in chat. You can unmute. Is there sodium in miso soup? Oh my gosh, you're right. There totally is. It is not a low sodium item. It's definitely high in salt. And I hardly ever have it, I think, for that reason. But you know what? Another interesting thing I heard today was that, like, miso is a fermented product and our tempeh is a fermented product. But when it goes through the high heat, we lose some of those good bacteria. We still have some. It's still a really good food, but we do lose some in the high heat. So if you do miso soup, what they were suggesting is that you do your broth and your vegetables and those kind of things, and then you stir the miso in after it's cooled off a little bit, and then you don't destroy all those good bacteria. There's some I never tried.
Debbie, on one of your slides, you had as bad protein and fat. And do you just mean animal protein on that?
I do. Thank you for clarifying that. I mean the typical American diet with high fat, protein, and fat and stuff like that. That's absolutely what I mean. Thanks for clarifying that. Other questions? Well, if we don't have questions, maybe you guys could share with me maybe some interesting fruits or vegetables you've tried lately.
Eggplant, Italian eggplant, someone gave me from their garden.
Oh, excellent. What'd you do with it?
Well, I read the books because I hadn't really cooked with eggplant, and it said you're supposed to salt it first and then rinse it off, and I did that, which was a mistake because they're so small, they're so narrow. But I broiled it, and then I scooped out the center, and I made a mixture with chopped tomatoes from another friend's garden and chopped onions. And there was another ingredient, I don't remember what, and made a pretty good, I don't know if you call it a salad or, so I think some people would have gotten chips and put it more like a dip. I was trying to remember something that my neighbor brought my mom when my dad passed away. And it was a Mediterranean dip in a jar, and we used it with crackers or bread or something. It was really good. This didn't quite make it, at least not my memory of it, but it was pretty good. And I just ate it out of the jar that I put it in. There wasn't that much because I only had like 5 small eggplant, but I'll try it again with the larger eggplant, the mini eggplants, but not the huge one.
Right.
And not do the salt, or at least, I don't know, can you advise on that salt? Because everything I read about eggplants said you should salt them and then soak them, rinse them off.
Everybody says to do that, and maybe John, you can chime in on this. I never do that.
Okay, if you don't do it, then I won't. I'll try it that way. I'm curious now about doing. The only eggplant I'd ever had that I liked was years ago in Berkeley. There used to be a place near the Claremont Hotel, a little hole-in-the-wall hamburger joint, and they made a deep fried eggplant, and it was really good.
Oh.
And that was when I was eating fried foods a little bit more than I do now, or a lot more, but never a lot. And now I hardly ever eat them.
Anything deep fried is always so good. So, hey, John, do you salt your eggplant?
When I use the globe eggplants, I do.
Okay.
Because they've got a ton of water. And what the salt does is help relieve the eggplant of water. And then you rinse the eggplant, the water doesn't go in because that water migration doesn't happen. So you can do that. The dish that her neighbor brought was probably eggplant tapenade.
Oh.
Which has got all of these Mediterranean olives and eggplants and things like that. That it's going to be slightly salty, and it's sort of a relishy type thing. And you can find a tapenade in a lot of vegan cookbooks because it's got flavor to it big time to help along more boring vegan dishes.
Yeah, that is
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, what are some other fruits or veggies you guys have tried?
Well, hi, this is Robbie. Hi. So, John, I take exception to that vegan food being boring. I've been vegan for almost 40 years. It's not boring. Are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My screen just all of a sudden, you're gone. So what I wanted to say about the eggplant is I love to grill it. And I don't peel it. I don't salt it. The grilling naturally takes a lot of the moisture away. Of course, you have a grill to clean, but I don't do that. And then I had tried putting something in the chat. I don't see it there now, but on the miso soup, there's a miso ginger broth at Trader Joe's. And yes, It is high in sodium. It is so strong though and concentrate. I dilute it 50% with at least 50% with water. In fact, I just had this last night.
Yeah.
And then I add my, dill, French thyme, whatever spices you want, and a little bit of fresh chopped tomato, and heat that, and it's just wonderful.
That sounds awesome.
It is. It's just very good. So it is high if you look at the sodium content, but it is so strong and concentrate that you dilute it, so you're getting half of that.
And that's kind of how I feel about the Dijon in some situations. You're right.
Yeah.
So that's good. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Robbie, did you say it was miso ginger at Trader Joe's?
Yes, and it's in the carton where all of their like chicken broth, the regular broths are.
Thank you.
And they have a low sodium veggie broth there that's very good as well. And price is great. So $1.99 for a quart.
Yeah, their fruits are good. Their soups are good. And
Yeah, but
I
that
use
miso ginger, I love it.
writing it down on my list.
It's great. And even people who do chicken broth, they like it when they're sick. So it's a good one.
Anything with ginger is good.
Oh yeah.
So true. And I want to point out that Velma wrote a little note here in the chat that Costco 2 weeks ago had a wonderful fresh tropical fruit called rambutan. And I think I had that in Hawaii. Isn't that the one that's like red and it's got little spikes on it, but on the inside it's really pretty and white with like little seeds? Anybody know?
I didn't understand what you were calling it.
Rambutan.
Oh, okay.
Rambutan. I'm going to Google it while here. I believe I had that. I think I've seen it at Sprouts. It's really yummy. But that is a good, fun one to try. Sprouts, I think, is a good place to go to try new things. They have some interesting produce. Yeah, that is exactly what it is. Let me see. I'll try to get a good picture for you. Look, you can see it on my phone. But it's red and spiky. Ooh. And then on the inside, you eat the inside, not the outside. And it's really yummy. So that's a great example. Thank you. Oh, and you can also find a rambutan martini recipe if you want it. Okay. Always can find a drink. Okay, well, summer is a great time to try some new produce and new veggies. So I really encourage you to try some new things, even if they look a little scary. And then Google them and find a recipe. Anything else to share? Any new things? John, what have you tried lately?
Well, the biggest thing is actually something I did a week or so ago. It was making a chickpea scramble.
Oh.
Which is brand new vegan. He's got it for his breakfast burrito. And it's instead of tofu, you make a chickpea mush with turmeric and some other spices in it. Pour it in an 8x8 glass pan, put it in your refrigerator, then cook up some onions and tomatoes and peppers till they're clear. 20 minutes later, pull out the chickpea mush that is now congealed, mash it with your potato masher, and it looks for all the world like scrambled eggs. And you put a pinch of black salt on the top, and life is good. And it's high fiber, and it's no fat.
That sounds fun. I'm going to try that this weekend. Okay, fun.
He puts in his recipe, he puts in chilies, and you may not have those on hand, but.
I do. Okay, I'm going to try that. Thanks. Well, shall we call it? Linda, you there? Well, we lost Linda. She called it.
She's dusting.
Oh, maybe the plumber came.
Thank you, Debbie, for everything you shared.
Thank you. That was very fun. And I think I'll see you again in a couple weeks. So have an awesome September, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.